Yeah, good morning. Happy Thursday, PSW staff, clients, friends. We have our friends joining us for Thursday's class. So tomorrow I can't wait to show you your results for Raising Arizona. This is such a fun country, banjo country western theme. So we'll see those results tomorrow. It's going to be great. Today we're going to revisit we're going to stay with the American song style because we looked at, Carter Burwell's score for Raising Arizona. He's American. We're going to go a few hundred years earlier, and we're going to look at one of the earliest, American songwriters and relook at Stephen Foster. Yeah, Camptown Races. You guys know that song, right? You were probably wondering, where did that song come from? And why does it sound American? It sounds like a very American song. It does not sound like something Mozart would have written 100 years prior. So Ives uses, in his Symphony No. 2, he quotes Camptown Races. We looked at that yesterday. So now we know who wrote Camptown Races, Stephen Foster. So people call him the father of American music. He's not a composer, although he had a little bit of composition training, but not harmony, counterpoint, not stuff like that. But he knew the classics, and he was a very smart and self-taught musician. But like we'll see with the timeline, a great songwriter. And people say, well, is that really the father of American music? Because if we think and just step back, American music probably is black music, right? Don't you think? It came from hymns, gospel music in the church. I would say that blacks were probably responsible for the American music, and Stephen Foster, of course, he's white. So people would say, well, blacks were the first. He wasn't the American. But what he did was he took a lot of black music, was exposed to a lot of black music, perhaps maybe exploited some of it too, but we'll see about that. Mostly just wrote good songs, but he was influenced by that. So yes, some people say father of American music. We don't need to get hooked on terms too much. But songwriter known for parlor music. So it was parlor music, which was kind of like saloon music. You would just go and play that old honky-tonk piano. But that was the popular music of the day. So that kind of music, and then minstrel music. And minstrel shows, minstrel music was, it was a racist entertainment. That's what it was. And this was, white people in blackface talking, mimicking slaves, mimicking black people, extremely racist. But it is what it is. We're not glorifying that, but we have to understand where our country came from. I mean, I've been reading a book about how Hitler created the Nazi, got a lot of ideas about Nazism in the 30s and looked at America as a model. So this isn't an anti-American class at all. I love this country. I hope you do too. But it's just a part of history that and we know our country's built on wonderful, beautiful foundations, but also built a lot on racism that's been a work in progress, that's hurt a lot of people. But we just need to know where we're coming from. So Foster took black music and modeled a new form of songwriting where you'd have a verse and a chorus and stuff like that European composers were doing. We looked at Schubert as one of the earliest art songs, folk songs. So that wasn't anything new, but it was new in America. That was a new thing. So he would, and it wasn't blues, because blues is an early type of music too, but this was more from gospel, spiritual hymns, and also right before marches, because we looked with Sousa, John Philip Sousa, the march, and then from the march comes ragtime, right? So, but we're not there yet. I mean, okay. Let's get this timeline because I want to give you context. He's born in 1826, dies 1864, a year before the Civil War ends. He dies at 37. He died a poor man, 38 cents in his pocket. Dies in New York. Alcoholism, a fever, depression, hard life. Okay. If he's writing most of these songs in the 1850s and 60s, before ragtime, Scott Joplin's not born yet. Who's going on? Okay, so we have Charles Ives, because we looked at him yesterday, but Ives doesn't start writing until early 20th century. We have Copland. Copland's 1900, he's born. He's going to be using Charles Ives. All this goes back to Stephen Foster. They're going to be using American folk music. And then, we have the Tin Pan Alley in the 20th century. Irving Berlin, Jerome Kern, George M. Cohan, those guys are American composers, but where did they get a lot of their music? We're just backing up here. A lot of it from ragtime to Sousa to Stephen Foster. Our history is not that long. So all that Tin Pan Alley American music. So isn't that cool? We're just stepping backwards. That's why with these advanced classes, we need to see the whole picture here. And so that's why that timeline is there. Aaron Copland was very influenced by him. He did a Lincoln Portrait, Old American Songs. Those were his pieces. And like we said, Charles Ives actually, plagiarized, or quoted rather, in his Symphony No. 2. So Foster, born in Pennsylvania, and upper class, private academies, private high schools, very, very, great student, trained in Latin and Greek and grammar, diction, very well educated, but was interested in music, didn't go into commerce like his father wanted him to, taught himself the guitar, the piano, clarinet, and the flute, and like I mentioned, did have a teacher that taught him the classics, but not formal education. But that's okay, you don't need formal. He was a songwriter. It's like Gershwin wanted to learn from Ravel, but Ravel said, if you remember, when Ravel and Stravinsky asked Gershwin, well, what do you make as a composer? And he told them, and they said, well, we should take lessons from you. But made his living selling his sheet music. Wasn't so good of a businessman. That's always the problem with artists at times. Had a lot of financial troubles. He sold all the rights to his music to his publishers for about $2,000, but that wasn't really a good investment, because most of all the profits went to the performers and the publishers rather than into his pocket. So learned a lot of music from his sisters. They were singers. Also from black church services that he'd attend with the family servant. They brought him in and he would listen to the music in the church. Minstrel shows like we talked about. Black laborers in Pittsburgh. That's mostly where he's thriving and working, rather. But scholars have said most of Foster's songs were really carefully structured and almost composition-like, but not a composer, more a songwriter. And the words and melody had a lot of sensitivity and to it. So they weren't just completely simple folk songs. A lot of these songs have very simple progressions that we've looked at. The 1 chord going to the 4 chord, going to the 5 chord, mixing those two up, but you always end it back on the 1 chord. One of the most beautiful songs, maybe one of, that I like, is Beautiful Dreamer. That was the last song he ever wrote before he died, just a few days before his death. in 9/8 time. We looked at a song a few weeks ago in 9/8 time. Blue Ronda La Turca. Da 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 da. Doesn't sound anything like that, but how beautiful! It's just a gorgeous song. So all these songs are just very fun songs. Oh Susanna, Camptown Races. Wrote over 200 songs. A huge, super successful songwriter. Only lived till 37, which is my age. But definitely somebody that we need to look at, because maybe one of the first American songwriters in our country that was writing music in the 1850s and 60s. We don't think of America having so much culture because there's war going on, slavery, and maybe some folk music, but he kind of got together some of these folk songs and was a little bit inspired perhaps by Mozart, Schubert, Brahms, all these people, but didn't write classical music. And Charles Ives and Aaron Copland would pick Stephen Foster's songs and really use them to create serious compositions, right? Because they were more composers. Stephen Foster was a songwriter, but wanted to give a class to very important songwriter. So Stephen Foster, to be called the father of American music, and he took from a lot of people, of course. Parlor music, saloon music, minstrel shows, and we talked about the racism and stuff, but we also talked, this is how the development of our country, the evolution of our country, the good things, the bad things, but wrote a lot of great songs, and I love that Beautiful Dreamer. It's such a beautiful song. So hope you enjoyed Stephen Foster. We're going to look at another, this is kind of American Music Month, I guess, in March for some reason. That's just the way it is. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to see your film screen results for Raising Arizona. So hope you enjoyed Stephen Foster. Have a great rest of the day. Okay, bye.